Welcome to California Unearthed. I'm at Whiskeytown National Park at the Tower House Historic District, and we're going to go exploring around here today. I've been here quite a few times, but after the car fire of 2018, the Park Service has done a really good job in fixing this place up. They've put some new signs up that they didn't have before, and they've actually come up with a walking tour. And you can get this pamphlet at the Visitor Center at Whiskeytown National Park. And we're going to go through this pamphlet and follow it a little bit. We're going to go off the pamphlet a little bit, but for the most part, we'll follow this as close as we can. So I invite you to come join us and explore Tower House Historic District. We're going to start off our walk right from the parking lot here. We're just going to head down the trail to our very first spot, which is going to be the old covered bridge. Sadly, the original bridge from 1852 no longer exists and has been replaced by a more modern steel footbridge. Back in 1852, Levi Tower transformed a rugged wagon route into a more modern road connecting the Tower House to the booming mining town of Shasta. That route included a bridge at this location that would soon become a local landmark. In 1853, Levi applied for a license to turn it into a toll bridge, which at that time was uncovered. In 1861, Levi's brother-in-law Charles Camden stepped in and bought the road. Camden didn't just maintain it, he elevated it. He renamed it the Camden Toll Road, added a proper toll house and gate about a mile west of Shasta, and by about 1864 had the bridge fully covered, giving it charm and durability. In 1912, Shasta County took the reins, purchasing the road and transforming it into a public highway. It served the public until 1924, when the state rolled out the brand new highway alignment, marking the end of the Camden Toll Road era and the start of a new chapter in California transportation.
The toll bridge. Welcome to this toll bridge. We hope it makes easier for you to cross Clear Creek. Since you are walking across, please pay 10 cents. And for future reference, it's 25 cents to ride over on horseback and $1.25 to cross by wagon. Thank you and have a nice day. Charles Camden was the owner of the toll bridge that once stood on the exact same location as the footbridge in front of you. Camden spent $20,000 to improve the road between here and the town of Shasta. He widened the road and built a bridge over Whiskey Creek and improved and covered the bridge here at Clear Creek. Camden's investment paid off. With a franchise obtained from the state of California, he collected tolls for 50 years from travelers going between Shasta and Weaverville. This was just one of Camden's many successful business adventures. Who was the toll bridge owner? Born and raised in England, businessman Charles Camden, 1817 to 1912, lived in New York, Chile, and Peru before heading to Northern California, where after gold was discovered in the Golden State. Camden met and became friends with Levi Tower. Continue across the bridge and down the paved path to learn more about these two individuals, their families, and their properties.
A little bit about Charles Camden as well. One of the other locations, from what I understood, is he was also living in Louisiana, and that will come back into play here in a little bit. Now, Levi Tower also has some more information here coming up that we know about him. And here is Clear Creek. I'm sure you can hear it. It is beautiful creek. It's an absolutely beautiful day today. And if you're interested in any gold panning, you can come out here and do some gold panning. You just have to go up to the visitor center and get a gold panning permit. It's only $1. You can come on down here and pan for gold. I have found a little bit here in Clear Creek myself. Then you have your footbridge right there going over Clear Creek. The house that you're looking at that is straight ahead of us, that is the Camden House. We'll talk more about that here in a minute, but we're going to go up the road here to where the hotel was. This is the Tower Hotel. And there is a plaque up here talking about the hotel as well. And after Cheryl reads this plaque, we're going to walk up to where the hotel once stood.
Tower House Hotel. At the Tower House, you can always find pleasant and agreeable society, attracted thither by the known comforts of pleasantness of the place. A popular 21-room hotel once stood just up the slope where Highway 299 now stands. The hotel was known as the Tower House and was originally built and owned by enterprising businessman Levi Tower, 1820 to 1865. The Tower House was known widely for its lavish entertainment and delicious fruits and vegetables. For a time, Levi Tower prospered as a local businessman and even became an early Shasta County politician. However, Tower's other business adventures eventually busted, causing him to declare bankruptcy in 1859. The hotel was bought out by Tower's friend and brother-in-law, Charles Camden, who then leased the overnight facility back to Tower. Levi Tower died in 1865 from typhoid fever. His final resting place is a short walk away and is located within today's historic district, a historic district that bears his name. The Tower House itself was destroyed by fire in 1919.
And we will go visit Levi Tower's final resting place here in a little bit. But let's walk up the slope here to Highway 299, and I will show you where the hotel once sat. There is another little piece of historic information up here as well that I want to share with you. It's a very busy day on 299 today.
As we stand here at this intersection, just imagine being back in the mid to late 1800s and looking upon the 21-room Tower House Hotel that once stood here, the beacon of Northern California for fine dining and a social spot for locals and travelers. Also, a stage stop starting in 1858. The road ahead of you, which is now 299, would have taken you to Weaverville. The road to the right, which is now Trinity Mountain Road, would have taken you to Wairika. Now, if you've notice that building right across the street, that is the other historical landmark I wanted to talk about. That was the old Blacksmith Shop.
I just came across Highway 299. I want to show you where the Blacksmith Shop was at. What we're looking at now is where the Tower Hotel once stood. We're on the other side of Highway 299, but right over here, I want to show you the foundation of the blacksmith shop. Right here is a little retaining wall, but as we go down Trinity Mountain Road a little farther, we will come across the foundation for the old Frost and Bloomfield wagon making and blacksmith shop. This was constructed somewhere between 1853 and 1864. Unfortunately, it was demolished in 1930 and a storage shed was built here, but that unfortunately burned in the 2014 fire. But the Park Service has done a lot of work to make sure that the foundation is secure for future generations to be able to see. So this foundation you see here, the rock foundation, is the original foundation of the Frost and Bloomfield blacksmith shop. Park Service put this on the National Register of Historic Places in 1973. And this is where people would get their wagons fixed, blacksmithing done as they traveled between Weaverville and Shasta, or traveled from Shasta to Wairika or the coast down to Arcata. This was the go-to blacksmith shop. All right, we'll continue our way over to the Camden House.
The Camden House. Success was called luck by those that failed. From observation, 9/10 of the luck came from my hard work and judgment. Charles Camden. Charles Camden, who believed that his personal success was due to persistence and hard work, built the house in front of you as a one-room structure in 1852. The Camden family lived in the house full-time and seasonally until 1945. Charles's business successes including extracting $80,000 worth of gold from Cedar Creek and its tributaries. $80,000 then would be about $2.5 million today. He also mined the miners by building and owning a toll road and selling water that was collected and sent downstream via his water ditches. The success of the Camden family was a rarity for Shasta County during the California Gold Rush era. As their wealth and family grew, so did their house. By 1890, the house had grown to the size and shape and it is today. Behind the house, a summer kitchen, woodshed, and guest house was built. The kitchen was also used as a servant quarter. Today, the Camden House is one of the oldest homes in Shasta County. Stroll around it and imagine what life would have been here for Charles and his wife, Felina, over 150 years ago.
Now, one more thing to mention about the toll road from Weaverville to Shasta. It wasn't just Charles Camden that helped build that road, that route from Weaverville. It was also William Loudon from Trinity County. He was the one that built the road from Douglas City here to the Camden House. Let's see if anybody's home.
Well, we have a little visitor.
Nice little sun room, I think is what this would have been. Nice front porch. And just look at the view off this front porch. If it wasn't for the highway going by, you can just imagine what this looked like 150 years ago. We'll go back in the back of the house where the kitchen servant quarters were at. And these servant quarters is where Kate Camden lived. We're going to talk more about Kate Camden here in a moment. She was a little Indian girl who the Camdens had as a servant. Behind the house is Willow Creek. See if we can get a shot of the creek over here. Oh yeah. So this is Willow Creek. On the other side of Willow Creek is an orchard, and we will take a look at that orchard here in a little bit, or what's left of it. So these footings here was another footbridge across Willow Creek that Mrs. Camden had built. Apparently she had a few of these bridges built over Willow Creek, but you can still see the concrete footings from this bridge. And we'll see those over on the other side as well when we go talk about the orchard and go visit Levi Tower's grave. All right, we're going to go over the Clear Creek and we'll talk about Kate Camden a little bit. Kate Camden is also buried on property, but she is buried up on that hillside across the highway. It is an absolutely beautiful day today. The Park Service actually had some goats out here last week trimming up the grass. I'll include a little bit of that footage in this video. And right across from the house is a little picnic area over here. This is where you can pan for gold, come and have a picnic with the family.
Win to the people. Before the Camdens and Towers made their homes and livelihood in this area, the Wintu people and their ancestors resided in this territory for over 6,000 years. Right in front of you is one of its confluence of Willow and Cedar Creek. Because of the supply of year-round water, there were several Wintu settlements here over the years. Establishing their tribal communities along rivers and creeks, the Wintu lived a resourceful lifestyle, harvesting the bounty of the forest and streams. Bonefish hooks, willow basket traps, arrow points, and hopper grinders were tools that the Wintu used for collecting and processing such foods as salmon, squirrel, rabbit, deer, acorn, and pine nuts. In the mid-1800s, the discovery of gold on Clear Creek brought the white settlements and disaster for the Wintu. Collectively, they were murdered, diseased, and pushed off their homeland. Despite these obstacles, the Wintu remained an important part of the local community today. The story of Kate Camden. Kate Camden, known here with the dark hair and standing in the back row holding one of the Camden girls, was a young Native American woman, possibly Wintu. In the 1850s, Kate became the nursemaid for the family of Charles and Felina Camden. Kate's final resting place is located within the Tower House Historic District. While we don't know how exactly she came to live and work for the Camdens, and while we know nothing of her prior life or what her original name even was, Kate's story exists within the larger context of forced labor and brutal racism against indigenous people. In the mid-1800s, California Indians, particularly children and young women, were captured and sold into labor.
All right, we're going to cross the bridge over Willow Creek. This is where Willow Creek comes into Clear Creek. Up the creek just a little bit is where Mill Creek comes into Clear Creek. 3 creeks come together right here on the property. Absolutely beautiful right there. We have a little crossroads here. To the right is the orchard and Levi Tower's final resting place. We will go there here in a moment. But for now, we're going to go to the left. And follow Clear Creek down a little bit here.
By 1867, Charles and Felina Camden started spending their winters in Oakland, California to provide a better education for their 3 daughters, Mary, Grace, and Ada. Therefore, Charles hired a caretaker for the property here and built that caretaker a house just up the road here called the Tenant House. The caretaker was allowed to work the land and profit from his agricultural and mining labors.
This Tenant House was built in 1913. This was after Charles Camden had passed away. But before that, there was always some sort of structure here for the caretakers of the property. This one here, just like I said, happened to be built in 1913. I could see myself living here. Absolutely beautiful house with Clear Creek and Mill Creek right behind it. Along with the Tenant House, there's also the barn. And then right next to this Tenant House was Charles Camden's lumber mill. I believe there's a sign right here for it.
Camden Sawmill. Charles Camden Sawmill operated from 1853 to 1860. It was initially built to supply lumber for his personal mining operations. The mill also allowed him to sell lumber to mining operations throughout the surrounding areas. The sawmill was powered by a water wheel using water from Mill Creek and water from an overhead flume. One of the main reasons the mill operated for such a short time was workforce reliability. Charles Camden journaled about workers would leave on Sunday and not returning for several days, leaving wood uncut and orders unfilled. This left Charles to fall trees, haul the wood, and cut the lumber himself.
Now, speaking of mining, Charles Camden was a placer miner. He did not do hard rock mining. So the difference is placer mining is mining from the creek. Hard rock mining is mining from the ground, from the hillside. And we are actually heading to the Dorado Mine, which we'll talk about more here when we get there. But the Dorado Mine is a hard rock mining operation, which Charles Camden was not involved in. He made his money by pulling gold out of the creek. You just follow this trail past the Tenant House, it'll take you right to the Dorado Mine. We are here at the Dorado Mine.
Dorado Mine. During the gold rush, Levi Tower and Charles Camden only mined for placer gold. Placer gold is what is found near the surface in rivers and streams. The Dorado Mine was a hard rock mine operating beneath the surface. It operated between 1885 and 1967 by a variety of owners until it was purchased by the Park Service. While gold was pulled from the earth here, it was never a significant amount. The displayed historic equipment survived the 2018 car fire. This includes carts, tools, and parts of the stamp mill used to process the gold.
So that is the adit from the mine right there. This fence was never here. This is new. They just put this in. And the mine carts are over here. They rebuilt this cover over them. It used to be a little bit smaller lean-to. But these are the old mining carts. It's pretty neat that these things still survive. There's one bit of, there it is. And then you can continue on down this trail, do a little bit of hiking if you choose to. But Cheryl and I are going to be heading back this direction. Pretty neat. Now those carts, that reminds me of the Empire Mine down in Grass Valley. They have a ton of old mining carts on their property as well. So we're going to head back toward the Camden House, but we're going to take a slight detour just up the road here. I don't know if you guys saw the sign as we were walking by, but the water ditch, Camden's water ditch, is right over here. Now, this is Mill Creek to the right, and from what I understand, there still is a rock foundation for an old dam that I was told about by Noah Everett. I haven't been able to find that rock foundation for that dam as of yet. Maybe on another day, we'll seek that out. Here is the water ditch trail. This will take us to Tower's final resting place and the orchard. But I'm going to stop filming here because the grass is really tall up here and it is springtime and prime weather for the rattlesnakes out here. So we need to keep an eye out while we're going up this trail. I'll film just going up the hill here and then we'll cut it off, but then I'll turn it back on once we get further down the trail. You'll see what I'm talking about once we get up here. Small trail, tall grass, prime spot for Mr. Rattlesnake to be hiding. So this is the road that we walked down to go to the mine. So we're just above the road right there. We're just coming up to the barn and the tenant house, but we're just above the barn. Here's part of the water ditch right here. I'm going to scan over. And a little bit of piping, old piping down here. The trail had a little bit of an issue right here, it looks like. This is the type of view I was talking about up here on the water ditch. Absolutely gorgeous out here. Now, could you imagine without the traffic noise, standing up here 150 years ago and looking out on this? So last week, this is where the goats were at.
At least this time we don't have to worry about getting shocked by the electric fence.
Here's a little bit of footage from there. We have some visitors at the historic district today. Herd of goats doing their job by weeding. These guys were down by the creek a few days ago. Well, hello there.
Hi, guys.
Now, this is the gravesite of Levi Tower. We can't get in there, but that is where he is laid to rest. Passed away in 1865 of typhoid fever in San Francisco. I believe there is a discrepancy on the day he died, November 12th through November 13th. Headstone says, I believe the 13th, the obituary says the 12th, if I remember correctly. And this white fence here is brand new as well. That was burned in the fire. I was looking at it the other day, and the Park Service has done a good job with these white picket fences. This is not your typical commercial lumber that they used. That is a true 2x4 that they used on this. And then those pickets are true 1xs. So they must have had this stuff specially milled.
Hopefully you enjoyed that footage of the goats from the week previous. As you can see, we could not get through here due to the electric fence and had to backtrack to get to the other side. So I do have a little bit more footage I want to show you of the goats down by the orchard. But for now, let's go inside here and check out Levi Tower's headstone.
Tower's grave, Levi Tower, 1819 to 1865, left Rhode Island in 1849 at the age of 30 when the California Gold Rush began. On this journey, he met and became business partners with Charles Camden. While his Tower House Hotel and orchards were quite successful, many of his other businesses were not. Two of Tower's nearby hotels burned down, putting him in debt. Charles assisted Levi financially when possible. In his final days, Levi traveled to San Francisco to see a doctor about lingering illness and died 2 weeks after arriving. After his death, members of the Masonic Lodge returned him to his home here in the historic district for final burial.
Very beautiful spot that they laid him to rest here, right in front of Willow Creek and not far from the Camden House, which is just over there. As you can hear, 299 is not very far away either.
Now you're probably wondering, since Levi Tower is buried here, where are the Camdens buried? They are actually buried in the Mountain View Cemetery in Oakland. This is a photograph of their mausoleum. Yes, that is Jeremy Tuggle standing in front of it. And Charles, Felina, and all three of their daughters are all buried in this mausoleum. It's at the top of the hill at the cemetery overlooking the bay.
Now we're going to head back towards the Camden House, but we're going to make a couple of quick stops along the way.
Here's one of the apple trees in Northern Sweet.
Ah, here's one of those apple trees from the orchard I was talking about. This survived the car fire. So as you see, it's a circular loop. If you take the Water Ditch Trail, it will loop you back towards the Camden House.
There's a little bit more footage of the goats. You can see Levi Tower's grave there in the distance, and we're right next to the orchard, and we're going to talk about that here in a second.
The electric fence is blocking us and the sheep. Now here's an interesting part of the historic district. After the car fire, it destroyed a lot of the orchard, and there were a few trees that survived. Like we saw the apple tree just a few minutes ago. And here's a sign that kind of explains what's going on here.
What's going on behind this fence? It's a new historic orchard. While the car fire of 2018 burned the majority of historic fruit trees here within the Tower House Historic District, a few trees survived. After the fire, park employees took cuttings from the surviving apple trees and successfully grafted them with those of park partners. These new grafts were transplanted into the orchard behind this fence in November 2021. To protect this new orchard from park wildlife, this temporary fence is in place. Once the trees get established, the orchard will be reopened to the public.
One of Levi Tower's longest lasting successes that partially remains here on property is that of his orchard. Levi Tower planted beautiful flower gardens, vegetable gardens, orchards, and the very first peach trees north of Sacramento. His orchard was the largest north of Marysville, with trees brought from Oregon and the east around the Horn and the Isthmus of Panama. The grounds contained 1,000 award-winning trees of apples, pears, peaches, plums, cherries, apricots, and nectarines, the oldest planted in 1854. 400 grapevines, a nursery of assorted fruit trees, plus gooseberries, currants, raspberries, and strawberries in 1858. Sadly, 60% of these trees were lost in the 2018 car fire.
Now, the interesting thing about this is, as I told you earlier in the video, Charles Camden lived in Louisiana for a little while. And about that same time, Johnny Appleseed was selling apple trees to travelers heading west in their search for gold. So my question is, are these apple trees here on property part of the Johnny Appleseed apple trees that he was selling out of the Mississippi Delta? There's a good possibility of that. Confirming that would be a little more difficult, but we never know. There's another tree just down here that survived as well. We'll take a look at that. This is a big orchard.
Can you imagine once these trees are established and it's opened up, the bears are gonna love eating those apples.
But there are some bridge abutments down here on the trail I want to point out. As I told you earlier, Mrs. Camden built a few different footbridges over the creek. And this one, at least the concrete footings still are here. Here they are right here. It's concrete footings for a bridge that once existed across Willow Creek. That's pretty neat that these still exist. And as I showed you before, Willow Creek runs right behind the house. There it is. Could you imagine growing up as a child here in the 1860s and have this whole area to run around in, play in the creek, get tadpoles, crawdads? It'd be a whole lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, looks like it's one of the fruit trees that survived.
So here is one of those fruit trees I was talking about that survived. They took the cuttings from this tree, along with a few others that survived, to create that orchard I showed you.
It's loaded with apples. Wow. It's amazing how the trunk is hollowed out, but you have that one limb that's still alive and producing.
But here at the intersection is a sign that points the direction to Levi Tower's resting place, the orchard, and the footings for that bridge, and then we'll direct you to the Dorado Mine. We'll go right back over Willow Creek Bridge once again.
There's some geese with their little goslings. How cute. We're not the only visitors here today. The geese are there. I don't know. She has babies. Look, that's the babies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 8 babies.
That's it for this episode of California Unearthed. Hopefully you enjoyed the tour as much as I did. And if you guys want to do this tour yourself, stop by the Whiskeytown National Park Visitor Center and pick yourself up this pamphlet right here. It'll give you all the information you need and give you a map of where everything is located at. So if you guys enjoyed this, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we'll see you guys on the next adventure. We're going to go have a little picnic.